So at 18, I started promoting clubs, and I spent the next 10 years really climbing up the social ladder. I realized that somehow I had truly become the worst person I knew. You know, my tombstone might read one day, "Here lies Scott Harrison, a man who has gotten 10 million people wasted." The next year, I make this decision that I am going to liquidate my life. I'm going to sell everything I own, and I'm going to try to become the opposite person. I start applying to the famous humanitarian organizations of the world to volunteer a year of my time. And finally, one organization, the only one that hadn't rejected me, writes me and says, "If you're willing to pay us $500, you can volunteer. Oh, and you have to go to Liberia." Weeks later, I joined this medical humanitarian mission in West Africa and just had my world rocked. Everything in my life changed. I joined a group called Mercy Ships that was operating from a 500-foot converted yacht that they had gutted and turned into a state-of-the-art hospital. 350 volunteer crew from 41 nations. And you can imagine what kind of people you would meet there. And I went out with a bang. I probably had 8 beers the night before, smoked 3 packs of cigarettes, and then just quit. And never smoked again, never touched coke, never gambled again, never looked at porn again. I mean, I really quit all the vices to try to open up a new story or try to walk in a very different direction. Well, I met a mentor really early on, a guy named Gary Parker, who was the chief medical officer, and he was a California surgeon that had signed up to do a 3-month stint on the ship, and that was 30 years ago. He never left, and that was not his plan. So my third day on the mission, I forgot to mention, my job on the ship was to be a photojournalist. So my third day, I had another huge moment where we were going to screen patients. So I knew that over the course of the whole mission, we had 1,500 available surgery slots. So it's 5 in the morning, I put on my scrubs, I jump into a Land Rover convoy with the doctors and the nurses and surgeons to all move towards the stadium where we'll open up the doors and we'll start screening patients and scheduling them. And as we turn the corner, I see 7,000 people standing outside. And this is dark stuff. And I realized in that moment, holy crap, we're gonna turn away 5,000 people. These people have come with hope to be well, to see a doctor. Some of them, we learned later, had walked for more than a month with their kids from neighboring countries. And they were just too far back of the line. We didn't have enough doctors, we didn't have enough resources. So I just remember weeping. I broke down. It was an incredibly difficult moment. And then I had to photograph the 1,500 people we were scheduling. And I'm photographing people with volleyball-sized tumors.
Yeah.
People who are choking to death on their face because they never had a surgical intervention. 65-year-old women who would drink this glass of water and the water spills out on the floor because they have a cleft lip. And in 65 years, it was never repaired. We saw people with missing faces, missing arms who had been hacked by the rebels during the war, kids who had been burned with oil by the rebels who were all fused together, and we would do these contracture surgeries and give them motion back. And my job was to document all of them before and after surgery. So I basically got to know 1,500 life stories. We would take these patients home often, and they'd be surrounded by hundreds of people who'd written them off for dead.
Yeah,
looking at them like your face has changed. I mean, seeing a 65-year-old woman's cleft lip repaired, she was a queen. She looked beautiful. She didn't look like this kind of monster that the people in the villages would throw rocks at her and try and stone her because they thought she was cursed. So it was an intense, amazing year of doing that. So I did a full another year. On that second tour, I discovered water. So I got off the ship and I start just exploring rural Liberia. And as I explore these villages, I am shocked by the kind of water that people are drinking. It's brown, it's viscous, it's green, you're actually looking at bugs in it. I mean, it's water that we wouldn't let our dogs walk in. And this is the drinking water for 50% of the country. So I'm taking pictures and I'm coming back and I'm saying, you guys should see what it's like out there. No wonder freaking 7,000 people are standing outside a football stadium.
This is what they're putting in their bodies.
And they're washing it, and people are going blind with trachomas. The stat I learned was that throughout the developing world, half of the disease is waterborne, caused by bad water and sanitation. So half the sick people didn't need to be sick or have things growing on their face if they just had the basic need. There were 1 billion people at the time without clean water. I was kind of putting all these things together saying, what if I could tell the story of water using images to do it, somehow raise money in an efficient way and restore people's faith in charity? The cynic, the skeptic, I had lived a life of pure selfishness. I had found an unbelievable freedom when I turned my attention to serving others and giving of my time and talent and money. And I wanted people to share in that because I just believed in generosity and I believed in compassion and these values.